Well, thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm going to do a quick intro and spiel about StartUpNV, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker, Andy Abramson, who we're very excited to have tonight. So my name is Logan Brown. I do community development and deal flow for StartUpNV. Broadly speaking, we provide capital and resources to Nevada-based ventures. So what that means is we provide things like education, mentors, programming, et cetera, for entrepreneurs in the state of Nevada. And we also invest in select companies in Nevada as well and run through those pipelines. I'm happy to have a conversation anytime about those programming, but that's not what we're here for today. We are here to hear from our good friend, Andy Abramson, who's been a big ally of this ecosystem and involved in the VC entrepreneur field for some time. So Andy is a marketing communications expert, and he's a founder of Communicano, a global virtual agency. His company has helped generate over $6 billion for investors, founders, and employees through 57 different company exits in various sectors, mostly tech, fintech, web, mobile, IT, infrastructure, et cetera. Some of the well-known companies that have acquired business through Communicano have been Google, Vonage, and Cisco, which many of you might recognize. And in addition to his marketing career, Andy has had success in pro sports, creating successful fan development programs for the Philadelphia Flyers, building a respected sports marketing program with the Upper Deck Company, and a number of other accolades. I'd like to give it up for Andy Abramson. Please flesh out anything I missed there.
Thank you all for coming, braving the rain. I think you all came for my wine, judging by how little of my wine is left. How many of you had a good chance to try the wine? Thank you. Okay. Did you like it? Good. So let's get a sense of who's in the room. How many people in the room have ever successfully exited a company? 1, 2, 3. Oh, I see Michael Chong is here. How many of you grew up on a Macintosh? Okay. Founded MacWeek, publisher, editor, created the whole thing on the Mac, sold it to Ziff Davis, created Iconocast. How many of you ever? Iconocast was legendary in the mid-2000s till about 2010, 2011. Michael lives here in Vegas, good friend of many years, long before I got to Vegas, and just happy to see him show up. Thank you for coming, Michael. Okay, so those guys exited. How many of you are founders in the room? How many of your founders were funded? Okay, that's. How many people are in the room are in the service industry to support the ecosystem startups? 1, 2, 3, bunch of people. Good. Well, you're Josh. You're kind of both things. You help them, but you know. How many of you have money in Silicon Valley Bank? All right. So we're going to talk today. Like Logan said, my name is Andy Abramson. The company's called Communicano. We are in a business that helps companies in the startup stage or those in transition. All right, so why am I in Las Vegas? I want to build a community. We need a community here. This is just a part of it. There's many other organizations like this. We need to build a community. I want to be a part. I am a part of that. There's things I'm doing right now that will help. Second, I want to solve the capital crunch. We have a capital crunch here. Yes, there's money in Vegas. Yes, there's money that's come to Vegas. Silicon Valley Bank jokes aside, we have a capital crunch. The Valley may be having to learn from us very soon. Third is to bring mentorship, having people like Michael in the room, Jeff Carter, my friend Bob Christopher. These are people who have done it. You know, when you're growing up in a city, Philadelphia, like I did, we had intercity basketball, Charles Baker League, Sunny Hill League, New York had the Rucker League. There were a ton of players that never made it to the NBA. They had potential. Well, you need mentorship in order to get beyond the potential level. And part of what I want to see here is help recruit more mentors who have actually done it, not those who have potential who haven't done it yet, but those who have done it. And then last is to drive unity, not division. We are a community divided. It's got to end. And it starts ending right now. But why am I up here today? To share. We all went to school and we learned the famous saying, what'd you learn in school today? Sharing. Well, if you don't give back, you don't get. So even though I'm a .com, not a .org, which means I like to make money, you have to give back in order to get. So the very first thing is we all have to learn to share. Second thing is knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge under this hat and gray hair and other things from years of experience. School of Hard Knocks, School of Education, getting a degree at Temple University, working my way through, and you'll learn a little bit about that. But sharing knowledge is something that's essential in order for others to succeed. If we keep it all bottled up, if we play the game of Monopoly and it's all mine and not yours, nobody ever wins. And then this experience. I got a lot of it. I started working when I was 14. And I don't mean just like some flipping burgers job or stocking shelves. Yeah, I did a little of that in between, but real job as a PR person for a pro sports team. So I got a lot of experience. And why am I also up here? To make sure you use the delete key before you hit the word mistake, because you don't want to make a mistake. And you can learn from others. I have a good friend who exited his mortgage bank that we helped in the early 2000s. Mistakes are tuition. You learn from your mistakes. So and the other thing is people who don't make mistakes don't make decisions. So yeah, somebody made a big mistake in Silicon Valley the last year or so. Somebody made a decision. That's how things happen. But you want to make sure that you can learn from people so that that mistake never happens. Or if you learn from it so it doesn't happen again. How did I get here? Oh, I've got a very checkered past. Yeah, my picture's on a few post office. No. I started working for the Philadelphia Wings. I was 14. I was selling an ad for my junior high school yearbook, and the owner said, yeah, I'll take an ad. Come to our office and pick up the ad. I went to the office to pick up the ad and the check. He said, can you put posters in store windows in your neighborhood to help promote the team? I said, sure. I did what any good, smart, rising sports marketing executive would do at 14. I delegated to my mother. My mother knew every retailer in the neighborhood in Melrose Park. Who's going to turn down Mrs. Abramson? She's been shopping for years with us. He gets his haircut here. She buys the aspirin here. Everybody took the poster, so I had to go back for more. That led to, can you work next week to stuff the tickets and envelopes? I thought I would get better seats. Yeah, I did. I got front row, section A, row 1, seats 1 and 2. I never sat in them. I got hired. I ended up that week, I got asked by the PR director who said, my last PR assistant was the vice president of production now of the Spectrum. Why don't you become my assistant? So I went from stuffing tickets to stuffing press releases. In the meantime, I learned a lot working with Cy Roseman, my mentor, my first mentor. Another person is like one of my bonus dads in life, and I refer to myself as probably the son or child he never had. Worked for the Philadelphia Wings for 2 years, and unfortunately, other teams in the league couldn't handle the financial pressure. They went out of business, so the league went out of business. You now see lacrosse here. It's a shell of a game to what we had and what I played in the junior league. But that summer, around the time I was emptying trucks, stuffing shelves, and rebuilding stores for Rite Aid, I got a call from my old boss. He goes, remember the guy you were buying equipment off of for the team? I said, yeah. He goes, well, he's got some crazy idea to promote youth hockey that Ed Snyder has. Now, Ed Snyder was the owner of the Flyers, very visionary guy. And the idea was to create a fan development organization, 1976. The words fan development did not exist. It was, we're going to promote youth hockey because if you get the kids playing, their parents become fans, they take them to games, and then they grow up and they become fans. Well, for 30 some years until Comcast took full control of the Flyers, who just fired their GM today for the umpteenth time, they were never not sold out. And our fan development efforts that I led from the time I started when I was 16, from the time I was 18 till 20, almost 29, resulted in that. Left the Flyers, went to the Denver Nuggets, with the idea of rebuilding an organization like we had in Philadelphia and the Spectrum and Spectacor, all of which I had grown up in Denver, and we were well on our way. We brought in Miller Brewing for a $10 million deal, brought in Nissan for almost $750,000 for 2 deals that we put together, and I got a phone call, your team's for sale. What? All these plans that John Gardner and I had laid out over a year before we got there, and once we were there, cratered because Sidney Schlenker's divorce required a $10 million payment to Mitzi, his stepson's mother. Team got put up for sale. I went back to school, finished my degree, but immediately was hired before I even got home by Footcomb Belding's Impact Division because they had tried hiring me when I was here before I got there. So I went to Impact in LA, but I was going to school in Philadelphia, running an office in my own bedroom that was the most productive office in the organization with a 27.5% profit margin on all of our accounts. What was I doing? Sports marketing, brand marketing, sales promotion, integrated marketing. That led to about 4 of us leaving and going to Upper Deck. I came in as I drove across the country, went to the Field of Dreams. We put together an event that was going to start 5 months later called the Upper Deck Field of Dreams. We were already doing something which was easy. It was called Celebrity Hockey. And I said, oh, Celebrity Hockey meets the Field of Dreams. Met with the mayor, the fire chief, the town elders, got everybody to agree that we could play a game, met with Don Lansing and Al Amescamp, the 2 owners of the field who didn't like each other. Don Lansing had the house, Al Amescamp had the cornfield. They literally did not like each other. Got to Upper Deck, my title was head of sports marketing and promotion. I walked into a meeting about PR, and nobody else in the room knew anything about it. So they dropped all the letters after the P in promotion and added public relations. I hate that title. I've never been a PR guy. Michael tried to introduce me that way to somebody. It's a title I hate because I'm more than that. Anyway, Upper Deck, we took the company from 27 million to 293 million in 18 months. And then, like the typical rite of passage, all of us in sales and marketing were fired. And I started my own business. Along the way, since from the foot cone belting era for the next, from 89 to 98, Celebrity All-Star Hockey was one of the things we did. We raised $6 million for charity and over 20 some events between US and Canada, playing with actors like Jason Priestley, Matthew Perry, Michael J. Fox, Alan Thicke, who's now gone, John Saunders, Jerry Hauser from Slapshot, and the MacGyvers, Richard Dean Anderson. The list goes on and on. It was an A list. We had Olympians from the 1980 team, and we had NHL Hall of Famers and a lot of my friends from the Flyers. This was, you learn a lot. At every stage, I learned and progressed my career to what I'm doing today. And then when Upper Deck cratered, I started what is now Communicano. But what have I done? Logan touched on that I've been involved in exits. I don't care about the 57. I don't care about the 6 billion. Yeah, I was in 10 of them. I don't care. This is more important to me. Who did the buying? Because what that means is our methodologies and our processes, and we don't have a menu. We do not have a very prescribed process. We're very bespoke. We're very tailored, has led to the discovery of these startups or companies in transition. And this is just a small smattering of it. eBay bought StubHub, Google bought 2 telecoms. Grant, any of you have a Google Voice number? Okay, I was part of that. Actually, I'm in the investor documents because I was a founding shareholder. Bought Gips. How many of you use Google Meet? That's Gips. Vonage bought Simple Signal and Telesphere. GoDaddy bought Freedom Voice, a San Diego company. IBM bought Web Dialogues, it's called Low the same time. Yahoo bought Ian Rogers Media Code. Ian later went on to sell Beats to Apple, and then he went to LVMH as head of digital strategy. Visa bought FinSphere, a Seattle company. If you carry your phone and you have a Visa credit card and your bank's deployed mobile location confirmation, that's that technology. Intel bought Orrin Michaels' API company. CA bought Arcot Systems. If you've ever had verified by Visa pop up when you're making a credit card transaction, or 3D Secure by MasterCard, that's their technology. Cisco bought Dynamicsoft, the basis of all SIP communication. Dolby bought Voxeat, and RIM bought Tungle, which was an early day calendar syncing program that Mark Gingras is now doing something called Nook. Actually, he's doing something called Rocks, I think. Now they changed the name. What we do is value creation communication. Everything that we do led to those companies either being launched, fixed in the middle, or exited, the liquidity moment, or we've gone end to end. We call it value creation communication. Why? Stories matter. Everybody has a story. I have a story, you're hearing it today. Michael has a story. Jeffrey Carter has a story. James Ritchie has a story. Logan's got a story. Jamie's got a story. Everybody in this room has a story, but it's how you tell it. And it all begins with a story. The story is always what you say. And we all have our story. Some of us has an escalator pitch, some have an elevator pitch, some take forever to say their pitch. Oh, what a bitch. But the story is what you say. A legend is equally or more important. How many of you know what a legend is? Anybody read Spycraft? A legend is somebody's backup. It's what makes them who they are, but it's more importantly what they say. If you don't have a story, you may have a story, but if you don't have other people talking about you the right way, you're not going far in business. What's the third piece, the most important piece of a story that we drill into every company? How many ever watched Jack Webb in Dragnet years ago? Right. Backstory, the supporting facts, just the facts, man. Give that man a drink. If you don't have a backstory to support your legend and your story, God help you, it ain't real. Story, not what you say to drive it home. It's what they say. That's a reporter. When a reporter's talking about you, you want them talking as if you were saying it yourself. So you better have a story that is clear, concise, credible, and contagious. We'll talk a little bit about more of that in a little while, because that reporter talking is telling millions of people about you. It better be right. Because we always say stories are told, they need to be retold. If your story can't be retold, if it doesn't go any further, It's like COVID never leaving Wuhan. It's not contagious. You want a story that is contagious. You want a story that is viral. You want a story that spreads as far and as wide. And you know why? It's a hell of a lot cheaper when people are talking about you than to buy advertising. And trust me, as someone who's bought advertising, I would rather have people talking about it than spending on it. We call this the architecture of identity. The foundation of everything we've ever done with any of these companies is based upon my good friend Bill Ryan, who's worked with me since 2002, who launched Yahoo, repositioned Apple, sat in the kitchen cabinet with Steve Jobs, and likely named the iMac the iMac. He knows he was in the room, and he kind of remembers saying, why don't we just call it that, because that's what the code name is. And that's how the iMac became the iMac. It's very important that the architecture of identity is understood. It's two sides to an identity. You have the way you see yourself from the inside out and the way others see you from the outside in. Let's start talking about it first from the inside out. You have a vision. Those of you who've started companies have a vision, but you don't share that with the outside world. Maybe your most trusted advisors, your investors, your partner, your key staff. But vision is something that is kept inside. But directly aligned with your vision is your mission. That's what you talk about. Our mission is, our goal is. My goal, you saw my goals up front, the 4 goals. That's my goal. My vision is that this community can become just what I've seen happen in San Diego and in LA and elsewhere. So that's my vision, but my mission is those 4 things to accomplish: building the community, reducing division, mentoring, bringing capital to town. So the very first thing is your vision and mission. Next is your voice and values. This is how you want to be heard, seen, and understood. Your voice and values are critical to your story. It is not so much culture as it is the way you want to emote yourself and be perceived. You want people to understand why you're doing what you're doing and the main reasons for it. That's your voice and values. And then you have your positioning. Positioning is what separates you from the competition. It's very important. Positioning is what separates you from the competition, or put another way, it lets you kick their ass. Now, those are the 3 inside ways that you want to be seen from the inside out. But from the outside in, there are 5. And if positioning is gravity, positioning being what brings you down to earth and holds you so you can get done what you want to get done, relevance is the big bang. It's the explosion. We would say that Steve Jobs never invented a product that didn't solve a problem that he already had. Relevance is directly related to solving a problem. There's nothing worse than having a great idea and it can't solve anything. Now you have to go figure out where to go with it and possibly create the problem and bring it to people's attention to know they have a problem. Because if they don't know they have a problem, you're not solving anything. So relevance and all these words that surround relevance: applicability, understanding, validity, uniqueness, usefulness, impact, implication, relevant, importance. You need to be relevant. If you are not relevant to people, you're boring. Superiority and differentiation. A lot of people, how many people have said along the way, oh, I'm good at that too. My business does this too. We're really good at that. Okay, that's nice. So are all those other guys. What makes you different? So I coined the phrase, me too, me also, me different. I'm different. You know, I'm different. I know what I do. There's nobody who does what I do. Like the Grateful Dead, we're not the best at what we do. We're just the only ones who do what we do. Superiority and differentiation is what helps separate you from the pack. It's like there's hundreds of people who play basketball in every city in the country, but only probably one might make it to the pros one day. Hockey, basketball, baseball. It's that difference that gets them ahead and their superiority. Next is ecosystem competency. One of the things I'm talking about building here in this town is a true ecosystem. We need it. But ecosystem competency says, are you the best at doing what you're doing? Or more importantly, do you have something that everybody wants to work with, do a deal with? Give you an example. Salesforce, massive ecosystem. How many of you use Salesforce or use some applications and use other applications that work with it? So big ecosystem. Microsoft, probably one of the masters of ecosystem. Google, even Apple, with all the apps, that's part of the ecosystem. The worldwide developer community, the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference, that's ecosystem. Google I/O, ecosystem. Amazon reInvent, Oracle World, all of those are examples of ecosystem, but what they are mostly examples of is ecosystem competency. Those guys have figured out how to build an ecosystem. That's what we need to do here in Vegas. Team. Last time I looked, I am not a team. There's no letter I in the word team in any language. So you need a team. You have to be able to tell what your team is. When we had accredited home lenders in San Diego, it was IPO of the year in 2003. Stock started at 7, went to a high of, I think, 63. The key point that we pulled out in the messaging and the positioning and building the narrative was how many of the executives, from the founders to probably about the first 20 people, had been there 7 years or more, with an average 8 years of 10 years of experience. Team is very important. One of the things that startups and companies that are venture backed often have is that they do the team shuffle. You know, the Wall Street shuffle, Mackenzie Steel, the team shuffle, person in, person out, person in, person out. Average life cycle of a CTO is about 3 years, CMO about 2 years. CEO gets away a little bit more because he gets to fire those two to say, I'm sticking around for another year. Bad for business. You need longevity. You need a team that sticks around. And then sustainability. And I don't mean the green kind of sustainability where it's about eco-friendly tree hugging. I'm not going to pollute the atmosphere. I'm talking about sustainability. Like, can you go all night? Can you go all year? Do you have the ability to ride Space Mountain? And that's a wrestling joke to those who've never watched Ric Flair. Anyway, do you have the ability to go the long distance? Can you run your business for a long time? Can you overcome adversity? Can you deal with a down market? I love a down market. It's an opportunity for the strong to survive and the weak to go away. So down markets are the best time to push forward. If you've got a good idea, don't take your foot off the gas. Find a way to go faster because you want to get big fast. So sustainability is very important. When you put all this together in your story, we get to the 4 C's that I talked about a little while earlier, which is your story has to be clear. Clear is another word for concise. That means don't have verbal diarrhea. The number of people here who can't even tell me what they do, and yet I'm 10 minutes later, I'm still wondering, why am I here? Learn to be concise. Learn to be clear, crisp. Those are 2 other words that can replace clear. Concise, crisp. Credible. Are you credible? Do you look credible? Are you able to back it up? Compelling. Nobody wants to talk to a boring person. Seriously. That's why dating apps exist. They don't have to talk to anybody. Compelling. Is your story compelling? Do people want to learn more? When you do those 3 things, your story goes viral. It becomes the 4th C. It becomes contagious. I cannot emphasize that point enough. You need to have a story which is contagious. After you get your story, you need a plan. A plan is not something that you do once. A plan is something you need to be able to do over and over again, and it needs to be replicatable by you and others in your organization. So we called it the Boulevard of Communication. Why? There's different elements to the plan. How many of you have ever been to Paris? You go down the Grand Boulevards, the houses and the buildings are all different sizes. Some are tall, some are short, some are fat, some are skinny, some are narrow, some are wide. In your plan are different elements like those houses on the Grand Boulevards of Paris, like going up the Champs-Élysées. You might see a big window, you might see a little window, you might see no window, you might see a building. Your Boulevard of Communication is made up of different elements. When you build your Boulevard of Communication, you think about these 3 first: the who, the what, the where. Who you're going to attract, what you're going to say, where you're going to say it, and most importantly, when. I will tell you that there are many firms in advertising, PR, promotion, direct marketing, digital marketing, they pull out their playbook. First 30 days look like this. The next 30 days look like that. This is how we onboard a client. This is what we do. You know what I do when someone does that to me? Famous words, you're fired. There are no two plans the same. Don't you dare pick out the plan you did for Ace Hardware with your Home Depot. Doesn't work that way. You start from scratch. You build a plan. It's like going to an English tailor at what they call bespoke. It is custom from head to toe. From the materials you pick out to the size, to the way it fits around you, to the way it tucks into your waist. The when is driven by a bunch of factors. Is your product ready or service? Is the market going to be ready for this at that time? Can I get the right people's attention? Can I be where I need to be? Now, the best example is you developed a product for Apple and you're going to launch it during the week of Worldwide Developer Conference. Why? Does anybody know about you? Have you already been through the mill? Have you already done a beta test? Have you already been in beta list and product hunt? Have you gotten thousands of people using test flight to make sure that, or hundreds of people using test flight to make sure you've got validation? Have you spent time working through the Apple ecosystem to fix the bugs they're telling you about so you don't get a kibosh at the last minute and not get launched? But worse, why do you want to go up against 100,000 other applications? Come out in March, build your audience, be successful. Let somebody at the Worldwide Developer Conference say, gee, that application that XYZ built is in our top 10 now because. So timing, the when is everything. Now, if you do that right, you get a drum beat. The drums, the native drums, they're beating, they're beating, they're beating, they're beating. You're getting people talking. People are hearing about you. They're spreading word about you. Word of mouth is a hell of a lot faster than word of mouth. That all leads to what we call rolling thunder. You start feeding the beast. You start making more announcements. You start spending some ad dollars. You start doing some cross promotion. You start doing some digital marketing. You go to events like Michael has put on. You get discovered at events like TechCrunch Disrupt. We'll talk a little bit about that stuff in a bit. This rolling thunder becomes a moving force for you. You become the irresistible force. You become a moving target. You become somebody everybody wants to hitch their wagon to. You're a hot commodity. You get this, raving fans. You want raving fans. You want to engage with your audience. You want people saying, I came to StartUpNV and I heard, what was the guy before? Oh, that wasn't StartUpNV. That was Tech Alley. And I heard this guy, John Hill, talk. And I went to StartUpNV and I heard Andy Abramson talk. And you should go to the next StartUpNV because Jamie Collier is going to be talking. So you got, I'm just setting the bar a little. I'm setting the bar for you. You want raving fans. You really do. You want influencers. You want influencers talking about you. When we did the Nokia Blogger Relations Program in 2005, very first corporate Fortune 100 organization to put their name on a social media program. I created it in a chat session, put it into a PowerPoint, had a meeting a day later and got told you're hired. They didn't even know what the budget was. Why? I didn't know what the budget was. We ran that for 6 or 7 years, but we built a complete base of influencers who we never paid. Zero, not a dime. Not one dime. People were accusing them of bribery with $700 phones, and Matt Miller from ZDNet, Palm Solo wrote, how dare you accuse me of being bribed? I've got a FedEx slip in the box to send it back to Andy. Best thing I ever did was put that FedEx slip in the box because I wanted the phones back. Eventually, not in 2 weeks, not in a month, we let the influencers keep the devices as long as they wanted them. Why? We had a series of devices coming out over the next 2 years, and then 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. We wanted comparison between ours and the competition. It was really about the competition, and the influencers caught on. Nokia kept getting mentioned. That's why we increased our sales. So influencers are a very important part of this whole thing. Media. If you're not working the media all the time and being friends with the media when times are good, you better not hope times are bad or you're going to go up in flames. You have to, the better you are with media on your way up, the better chance you have of when you hit a bump that they're not going to kill you. They may just wound you, but they're not going to kill you. They'll give you a chance to comment before they write or report. But if you've been silent to them, if you think you only use them when you need them, first thing they're doing is like, who are we going to shoot first? Usually the CEO, then the PR director. Anyway, be friendly with the media, customers, work your customers, engage with your customers, communicate with your customers. Don't treat them like they're just a piggy bank. Talent time. Let's talk about talent. I love talent. I don't want to be an HR person, though I have recruited people. It's about picking the right employees. If you don't have the right employees, you don't have the right mix of people, you don't have the right team. I talked about team. So we help people figure out what makes up a good team and who to hire and who to fire. It's about hiring. Hiring is so crucial. Find a good HR person who knows how to sift out, figure out how to ferret out the facts about the people you're hiring. Out of the 35 people who've worked for my company, when we were a large firm, I only had to fire 2 people in my life. That's pretty good. And we only ever lost like 2 people we wanted to keep. Pretty good ratio in this era, especially in the communications, advertising, and media business. But hiring is key, and then being able to if you make the right hires, they don't leave you. They want to be with you. Freelancers. You got to know when to pick them up and when to use them and how to use them and how to get the most out of them, because they're not going to be there forever. They know it, you know it, I know it. You got to pick the right freelancers. You got to source the specialists. If you need something done, you need an architectural drawing done, you need a circuit diagram done, find somebody. They don't have to be in your own backyard, but find the right specialist and use them and keep them on your digital address book, because you want the right employees, freelancers, and specialists. And most of all, find the right agencies. And agencies are all about experience that they bring to you, but don't hire them because they worked for somebody 10 years ago in your industry and the team that worked on it's long gone. That's just a win on the board. You want to hire the team. You're hiring the team, not the agency. You're hiring the people who work for them. So do your vetting like we do. The way I check references, I find out what the competition's references say about the other guys. I find out what this guy's references say about the competition, and I get a real good read of who's who and what's what. And sometimes I even find somebody I didn't know about. So the searching and selection process of employees, freelancers, source specialists, and agencies is key. So doing the right kind of searching and the right kind of background. Don't trust LinkedIn. Sorry, don't trust it. It's like a credit report. It could be faked. Seriously, do your homework. Don't trust the person's reference at the company. Oh, that was their best friend down the block, down the hall, no idea what the person did. Okay, next, the fourth part is brand acceleration. This is putting your foot on the gas. This is getting big fast, which is an expression you've heard in Silicon Valley and every city. Get big fast. Don't wait. Don't be a procrastinator about success. Okay? In order to get big fast, it's all about your cadence. You have to have a cadence. You have to be on a schedule. You have to be doing things like a metronome, back and forth, getting things done, moving forward, steadily forward progress. Cadence is important on your business. It affects how you do your product development, how you do your marketing, how you tell your story, who you talk to when, and the follow-on effect from each action. Cadence is key. Next is timing. We all know timing is everything. You come out too soon, you die. You wait too long, they win, you die. So timing is everything. Be aware of your market, understand what's going on, know what's on the calendar, know what the competition is doing. When I first joined Foot Cone and Belding, I spent hours reading the LNA, Leading National Advertisers report that came out quarterly, which listed where everybody was spending money. So as we were going into a pitch for a new piece of business, the very first thing I did was, where's the competition spending money? When are they spending it? What are they doing? Next, when are they going to trade shows? What trade shows are they attending? When are they running commercials? When are they running print ads? Are they doing sports? Are they doing entertainment? I made a point of knowing what the competition was doing because that allowed me to then interview salespeople. By the way, interviewing salespeople of companies you compete with is the best way to get information. Why? Salesmen love to talk. They will tell you anything because they think they're going to get your business. I remember we were doing a book project and I interviewed Disney and Penguin and something else salespeople. I knew everything they were doing. Everything. The marketing plans, the merchandising plans. So of course we won the business, but then we won the war in the stores because we knew what they were doing when and what their weaknesses were. So talk to salespeople and then figure out your timing. That was in the old days where you could call up, hi, I'm doing a book report. Can't do that anymore. They got too smart on that, but there's ways to social engineer any kind of information. Timing is very important. Repetition. Do it right and keep doing it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Could look a little different. It could feel a little different. Your story is the same. You spin it a little different way based on your audience. Inner city story, suburban story, big city story, little town story. Being repetitive with consistency helps you tell your story, helps you build your brand, helps you be consistent, helps you get attention, helps you get acquired. Momentum. You want momentum and you want it to be going forward, not backwards. Backward momentum is not a good thing. Forward momentum carries you across the line. You want to build up a head of steam. You want to keep rolling. That's like rolling thunder we were talking about. That's like the drum beat. Momentum carries you. So you have to have that cadence. You have to have that regular thing. As you start to get one commercial running, get another. As you start to get one article running, writing, do another. As you get one influencer, get two. You get two, get four, get six. All of that is momentum. And momentum will carry you across the goal line. That's why you want to do that. You need momentum in your storytelling. You need momentum in your business. You need momentum in your sales. Build a momentum strategy into what you're doing. Now, this one. For those of you in the back and can't read, it says, what do people think about you? Reputation. Easy to get, hard to get rid of. You want to get a good reputation. What does that mean? Customer service. Of course, we'll take care of it. Versus, I don't know, call us back in a month. We'll tell. Fix it. Fix the problem. Make somebody happy. The happiness guarantee. Things like that. You stay in a hotel, the room's dirty, it smells. Complain immediately. They'll give you a better room, or they'll give it to you for free, or they'll move you. But don't try to hide bad things. Fix it right away. I had a hotelier who we put a technology from a company that we worked with called Bembria into the Intercontinental in San Francisco. The GM, who's still a good friend to this day and uncle to my 7-year-old, he said, always better to know about the problem while the guest is, he's German, always better to know about the problem while the guest is in the hotel. We can fix it. We can't fix it when they put it on the report and we get told about it. So all of that leads to a good reputation. If you read things like Yelp, TripAdvisor, Google, all these things, those are reputation. Don't pay attention to your customers. Do all the wrong things. Your reputation goes down the drain. Reputational risk is so high, you never want it to be a currency. You want to use reputation as assets, not as a liability. So build your reputation by making sure people think the good things about you. You want to be part of the in crowd. One of my favorite Brian Ferry and Roxy Music songs, I'm with the in crowd. You definitely want to be with the in crowd. You want to know who's who and what's what. You don't want to be on the periphery. You're either in or you're out. So do the right things to be part of the in crowd. You want to be the face the crowd is looking at. See, they're looking at me. You want to be that face that the crowd is looking at. You want to be the speaker. You want to be the person being quoted. You don't want to always be the grand puppeteer behind the curtain. Sometimes you are, but you want to be known as the person who can make it happen, the person who has a clue, the person who's got their finger on the pulse, the expert in the industry. That makes you somebody important, and that helps attract capital, that helps attract investment, that helps attract customers, it helps attract the media. This is why companies like Cisco and Microsoft are always in. They're the face the crowd is looking at. Media. I can't undersell the idea of the media. Media is important. You want to be the influencer. When I was building up my agency as a telecom agency, I was one of the top 5 VoIP influencers. I still am listed, and I haven't written much about telecom. I still have telecom clients. I still have telecom business. Be the influencer. Be the person who knows what's going on. Have an opinion. Jeff Carter, who is writing his blog, he's a VC from Chicago, lives here, has an opinion. He writes a couple times a week on venture capital. Having an opinion, a perspective, an opinion. Don't just say, oh, I want to push this out on LinkedIn because my friend wrote about it. Be an influencer. Have insight, perspective, and opinion. Where do those letters come from? IPO. If you want to think that way, you want to think big, be an IPO or influencer, have a perspective, and have an opinion. There's another set, I would say grow a set, but I would be a Me Too violation. So be an influencer. Attract the influencers. Make sure they know what's going on. Correct them when they're wrong. Seriously, they're wrong more than they're right. Influencers are like weather people, the meteorologist. Does anybody remember what the weatherman said yesterday, except when he's wrong? Influencers are like meteorologists. I call them social meteorologists. They put stuff out all the time, all the time, all the time. They're doing it for clickbait. They're doing it for free trips. They're doing it for free shoes, for free hats, for free clothes, for free cars. But attract them anyway, because they're going to tell your story if you tell it to them the right way. Why? Because you created a story with the 4 C's, and what do they help make it be? Very good. Manage it. Don't just let it happen. Sit on top of it, monitor it, keep track of it, use engines, use tools, use tactics to be aware of it. Be ahead of the game. When I read this morning about Silicon Valley Bank having its failure, and remembering 2 days ago how I told a client at US Bank, Silicon Valley's vulnerable, and I didn't even know about this. I was talking about something totally different, but I felt they were vulnerable right now. What prophetic words they were. I can't wait to talk to them next week on our weekly call. But this morning I sent to a friend of mine and founder of a very large unicorn in the Bay Area. And I said, remember what I said about Harvey Weinstein, tip of the iceberg? Poorly managed crisis communications by Silicon Valley Bank. Letting VCs say, oh, there's nothing wrong, goes telling them there was nothing wrong, and those guys now have egg on their face. Manage it aggressively, proactively, especially in an area. The biggest problem with crisis management, when it happens, there was no plan. So you need a plan. Same thing when you have good news, have a plan. We just won a lawsuit with one of our projects in Florida. As soon as it happens, as soon as the decision, the CEO goes, what do I do? I go, Nike strategy like we did 15 years ago. Okay, PR team in motion to write the release, pitch the story, boom. First thing in the morning yesterday, stories in the front page that we won again. So playing the game and managing and being ready, being prepared, it doesn't just happen. This is my sports background. You have to practice, 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 but you know what kind of practice makes good? Perfect practice. Perfect practice makes perfect. So learn to manage. Be a leader. Don't hide. Don't be a marshmallow. Get out in front of it. Don't lead from the back. Lead from the front. George Washington led from the front. Hitler led from the back. Always be a leader. Always be in front. Be on top of it. Know your numbers. Know your cap table. Know your balance sheet. Know your employees by name. Know your customers. Be a leader. Be somebody who can be decisive. Don't say, yeah, I'll make a decision tomorrow, and then you don't make a decision for a month. You say you're making a decision tomorrow, make it today. Be a leader. Learn how to lead. The military does a good job at creating soldiers. They do an okay job at creating leaders. Be a leader. Now, this is a big important one. Do you want progress or perfection? You're in the startup world. How many of you vote for progress? How many of you vote for perfection? Okay, well, perfection is the enemy of progress. It gets in the way. It's an engineering thing. We're going to get it right in a week. Give us another week. You know what? We found a little bug. Give us another week. It's not perfect yet. So perfect practice makes perfect. That's practice. But in real world, when you're playing the game, Don't worry about perfection, just make progress. You don't get across the goal line if you don't move the ball along. That's called progress. You can't score from the 1 yard line, guys, on the other end. You need to be down the 1 yard line in the other team's zone. You can't score from the defensive end in hockey and all that. Questions at the end. Questions at the end. Oh, okay. Events. I love events. I've been in the events world since I'm 14. There's no better thing than events to build momentum, to establish credibility, to get things going. Events can be social. This is a social event. Okay? Events can be social. Attend local social events. Get out there, become part of the community, become part of the fabric of the community. Get involved, do things, take on a role. Don't just be sitting around and saying, yeah, it's great, Logan, you did a great job, and then leave. Help Logan out. Get up and speak sometime. Be a fact, be a force at social events. Network. If you don't have a digital business card or a paper business card and you come to one of these things and say, I'll text you my contact details. Sorry, be a professional. Have a business card or have a digital business card. If you don't have those, you're not a professional. You're just here hanging out. You want the free food, the free booze, or you're coming here for a date. So figure it out first that you're coming here to network. Conferences are real important. Yeah, I don't hesitate to pull punches. Conferences are very important. Whether it's an unconference, whether it's a gathering, whether it's a salon, that's where business gets done. That's where the ecosystem players hang out. That's where you do your best business with people who are your pseudo friends. Go to conferences. Now we get ready for lunchtime. You've done all those things. You've got your story down. You put your Boulevard of Communication plan together. You hired the right talent. You figured everything out of how you're going to get there. You're accelerating, foot's on the gas. It's time to launch. You better have done your market research. U&A, usage and attitude studies. How many of you have ever done a usage and attitude study? Uh-oh, you better go back to read Marketing 101. How many of you have ever done an intender study? Written brand personas for your customer base. So okay, you got brand personas. All right. So only about 5 of you have done it, and the rest of you startup people have never done U&A, intender, or personas. You don't know who your customers are. You're guessing. So you need to do that. Even if you do it with hardly any budget, find a way to do it. You need to do market research. None of this gut feel. Investors don't invest in your gut, especially those that are big. They invest less. You need customer engagement. If you don't have the gears meshing and everything flying on all cylinders, you are in trouble. Customer engagement is one of the most important ways of being successful. You need to talk to them. More importantly, you need to listen. I've had clients who talk with 2 mouths and listen with 1 ear. It took them a long time to finally become successful. Listen. Develop good listening skills. If you can't hit the mute button when you're on a Zoom conference, listen. Let them talk. Talk to your customers. Go out in the field if you're doing a retail product and talk to the person stocking the shelves. I talk to Uber drivers every time I take an Uber. I know how bad Uber's paying people. I know how Uber was able to make their numbers last quarter because they went from 65% to 50% in what they're paying their drivers. Well, it's easy to make your numbers if you pull another 15% out of the money where the customer thinks, oh, they're getting paid 80%. They haven't been getting paid 80% for many, many, many years, and it's getting worse and worse. So tip your Uber driver because they're making a lot less now. But how do I know? I talk to them. I ask them questions. I talk to them about the promotional cycles and all that. And I remember Travis Kalanick from way, way back. He still owes me $56. Two-way communication. Engage. Customer engagement is not just about listening or talking. It's about two-way communication. It's reading those customer complaint emails. It's responding to them. It's telling the customer, you appreciate them. Thank you for telling me that. Here's a little bonus for being our customer. We want to keep you happy. But you're not writing that note to be made happy. You want them to know. Engagement is a two-way street. So it's listen, talk, have a conversation, have a dialogue, and use that information to figure out who to market to like them and how to get more of them and how to stay in touch with them. This is not about filling out the warranty card and never hearing from you until you have a problem with your toaster. It's reading all the recipes you can make with your toaster oven that you're being sent. You want to engage with your customers. Why? When you need to buy a new one. Oh yeah, these guys are great. When I had a problem, they fixed it. When I sent them an email, they responded. I'm really happy with this brand. Customer engagement. Delivery. And I don't mean Uber Eats. Delivery is living up to what you say you're going to do. Deliver. We like to say we undersell and we over-deliver. Been saying that for many years. It's a great model to have. Sell less, do more. Offer extra. The bonus. Everybody loves the extra freebie. Learn how to deliver more. Delivery of your value proposition, and I didn't go into the basis of the USP. Delivery on your USP is significantly important. If you don't deliver, you're out of business eventually. So as part of building your brand value and creating value in your business, you better deliver. The obstetrician who doesn't deliver the baby isn't an obstetrician much longer. Loyalty. You want customer loyalty. You want, remember we talked about raving fans? You want customers who are loyal to you. How many of you go to the same supermarket every time? How many of you buy the same brands week after week? Those of you who brand switch are taking advantage of promotion. We understand that. But in reality, you buy the same brand over and over and over again. You're happy with your car brand, you buy another one. You're happy with the gasoline that goes in it, you keep going to that gas station. You're happy with the guy who fixes your tires, you go back there and get a new set of tires from the same person and hope he's there. That's loyalty. You want that.
Very rare today.
Very rare. You're absolutely right. Customers. Customers are why we exist. Clients are customers. But there is a difference. A client is a client of an agency. A customer is someone who buys the product. But in overall words, it's almost synonymous. Clients and customers are very important. You have to make sure they're happy. You have to make sure they're maintained. And you have to make sure they're well fed. Ecosystem. We talked all about that. The brands that are successful feed their ecosystem. They take part in each other's events. They share information. They solve problems together. They fight governments together. They enact legislation together that furthers their profitability. So your ecosystem has to be fed and watered and kept going. And don't forget taking care of your investors. Keep them informed. I don't just mean the monthly board meeting that's boring. Keep them informed of what's going on. Send them little love notes of this is going on in the industry. Didn't just heard about it from one of our sources. Think it's an opportunity for us to make an acquisition if we move quickly. Keep your investors aware of what you're doing, whether they're angels or venture funds or a publicly traded company. Most importantly, get close with the potential people who are going to acquire you, that liquidity moment. When we got involved with Liquid Seats, my question to Jeff Floor and Colin Mitchell was, who buys you? Jeff said, well, it's either going to be Ticketmaster or eBay. I said, who's going to be the easier sell? Oh, eBay, they have no clue what they're doing. Ticketmaster, of course, did and still does. eBay bought StubHub. And he was right, they had no clue what they were doing. But we aimed all the messaging, the positioning, the story building to be attractive to eBay. When we did the same thing with Gips that made them attractive to Google, we put them in the same events in the booth right next to where Google was. Their speaker on the same panel as Google. It didn't hurt that we were also involved in helping organize the event. But what I'm saying is you got to have that hidden advantage and you want to always be close to your potential acquirers, because what you want to figure out first is who has the gap you can fill, and then keep aiming towards that gap. Don't deviate. If you do all that, value creation communication will work for you. Thank you very much. That's how you can find me. I forgot to put the QR code up. I'm sorry.
I was going to say a serious value proposition of these sessions is, of course, the presentation, but really the Q&A. So without further ado, we are going to get off the Q&A.
Dave Berline asked, what's the most critical step this community can take to move the ball downfield? Well, the first 4 points I made of the night, that I'm here to build ecosystem, to reduce the friction and division between factions, to build mentorship, and most importantly, we have to solve the capital crunch. The way we need to do that is we need to become importers, not exporters. We have a lot of bright people here. We have students who graduate the universities here, UNLV, Reno, Southern Nevada, and they leave. They leave with their good ideas, their intelligence, and their skill set. We have companies that get funded here and move to Austin, Seattle, San Francisco. We have to stop being in the export business. We need to be in the import business. We have to import talent, people, money, and ideas. Next question. He made a statement about not being perfect versus being perfect in a space launch, like going to Mars. And my response is, that's a very good Frankston rule question. Bob Frankston of VisiCalc was known for talking at conferences, but never asking a question. I think the question here is, you're trying to ask is, how do you do it if you only have one shot? You don't miss. Next question. Can I give a practical real world example of building momentum? Very good question. 1, plan your work. 2, work your plan. If you want to do it through PR, start telling do briefings, educate people, make your information available. Don't hide it. Don't be this, we're a mystery. Don't make it, you can't find anything out about me. Don't be like the model running down the street in Miami Beach to avoid the paparazzi. Be out there. Talk, share, comment. When somebody writes an article that's similar to what you're doing, but not dead on, introduce yourself, explain your credentials, and then point out where the article was slightly missing some facts. I do that all the time. It's why I've been quoted close to 400 times in things that I'm not representing. Learn how to build momentum in the media. If you're going to do advertising, learn the difference between flighting, pulsing, and a campaign when you're doing it. If you're going to do outdoor, you might do a mystery ad. Then you might reveal a little bit more. Then you might build up a little bit more until people are going, what's that ad? What's that all about? And they're waiting and waiting, and then people are talking about it. So if you're going to do radio campaigns, have a campaign. If you were Motel 6, like we did in college, a campaign, we knew they always advertised between 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock on the radio, and they built momentum for people who were driving, who are about to make a decision where to stay. Momentum is built by cadence, we talked about, consistency, availability, reachability. So you have to have your plan, and whether you're going to do advertising, promotion, PR, events, use them or use them all together in an integrated fashion to build momentum. Have a calendar. I was on the phone with somebody today who's about to do something really big, and I killed their launch plan and pushed it back and gave them rationale as to why, and they go, that's brilliant, you're right. I said, now we have to build a calendar of what the other guys are doing. Let's know when they're doing everything, because they can't change their plan. Let's rain on their parade. It's part of being asymmetrical. Building momentum is about being smart, being scheduled, having a cadence, having a plan, having timing, and sticking to it, but also being nimble enough to shift. Next question. The money that's in Vegas that is here is money that's been made largely elsewhere, is generational wealth. Generational wealth is family office. Family office, Vegas may be the home of gambling. The family offices are not in the business of gambling, and venture capital is often seen as a gamble compared to a less risky investment like real estate, which is here. This town has a capital crunch because we do not have venture capitalists with a lot of liquidity. We do not have multiple VCs. The ones that are here may not even be real VCs. There's a couple of them who are very shady. You go through their SEC filings, you know that they're not. One person does not make a fund. I'm sorry. One investor is not a VC fund. So we have a capital crunch in the way of traditional venture money. I lived through this in San Diego. When I was there, Enterprise Capital Partners and Mission Ventures were the two funds that mattered. Mission stopped investing in companies somewhere around 2008. Enterprise Capital, I don't even remember. But when they were investing, they were really investing. We helped both of those funds exit companies successfully. Next question.
Yes.
Hold on, does that answer your question about the capital crunch here and clarify it? Okay. Import money, import people, and get them to stay here. We have great weather. We have great tax incentives. We have we have modern infrastructure. We have incredible broadband infrastructure, dark fiber infrastructure in here to build upon. We have a lot of empty office space, a lot of storefront space. We have a young, vibrant community. We have to get the young people from our community to stop thinking that because their parents worked in the casinos and have been in the union for years and have had all these benefits, that's their best route to their future versus thinking about becoming designers, developers, coders, marketing people, et cetera. There's a lot of opportunity here. and there's a lot of people here. We have to keep the people here and move them around. Number two, I think we need to band together and get the right people working together and let those people make it happen over time. And third, there has to be a slight shift in eventually how the casino and gaming and hospitality industry looks at every other industry versus themselves, but that's just my opinion. Next question, go ahead. Okay, so the question is, how do you get media interested? Well, first, media has changed dramatically over the last 20 years. There are less reporters, there are more pitches. It has to be real news. Putting out that you got a hangnail today and you found a great clipper is not news. I'm sorry, unless you're reporting it on some blog for hangnails. You have to really have real news. In your case, you sign deals with some really good banks, some financial institutions. What you want to do is you want to find the finance writer and just say, look, I don't expect you to write about me today, but let me tell you what we're doing and what our roadmap is. And you know, in your back pocket, you've got that bank signing with you and this financial institution and this processor, and Money 2020 is coming up. And you've been talking to this guy for 6 months and you say, you know, Money 2020 is coming up. Can we have lunch? Let me tell you what it means to us here. But let me tell you what it means to businesses like mine. And let me tell you what we're going to unveil here. Well, Money 2020 is a big conference now. 5 years ago, Money 2020 was only known by the fintech people. I'm not talking because crypto got involved. And now you've made a friend with the business writer. And he, of course, is being pitched by the Money 2020 publicist and by the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Bureau publicist. And he says, gee, Josh has this. Let me call Josh up to find out what this is, because he knows this way better than I do. That's one way you get publicity. Next, we'll talk more about it. Next question. Yes, sir. Okay, so the question is about place-based destination development of a community. A lot of that requires cooperation between economic development groups, the city, and startup improvement districts, what is known as BIDs, business improvement districts, which we don't have here. We have the arts district, which is not even a bid. It's just a amalgamation of the tenants and landlords in that area. You need to build an ecosystem. And it can't just be the land developer doing something unless you do what Tim Leiweke did when he and Philip Anschutz built what was known as the Staples Center, which now is called the Crypto Center in LA. And they built an entire entertainment zone around that, including the convention center, including all the hotels that went up, including all the restaurants that came in. And that's how you created an ecosystem that made going to the Staples Center in LA something interesting. But Tim told a story to the church people, to the homeless people, to the cops, that was all based on a single core and then relevant to them. And he built an ecosystem so people would let he and Philip Anschutz and Ed Roski do what they wanted to do. But you need to build an ecosystem. If you don't have an ecosystem, everybody working together, you have division. Next question.
If I may, Andy, real quick, there's a lot of work going on in that sphere here, as far as municipal governments, local organization, economic development groups. That is part of the work being done in Las Vegas. It's been a long-term effort. We are part of that. So I think that it's coming to bear, and there's ways to get involved in that. But next question to Andy's point.
Next question. Go. Okay. No. So he asked that I talked a lot about media. Do I think the value of media? Media has its place. There's consumer media, there's business media, there's trade media, there's digital media, there's home-built media, there's being your own media empire. Telling your story, media is one component. I talked about media, I think, 3 times here, but in reality, media is one component and one avenue. Media is both paid and unpaid. It's earned and shared. You have to know which form of media you're using. So you can use paid, but you shouldn't do it first or you'll never get earned. You want to be shared, that's real important. And you want to have owned, meaning on your own content, your podcast, your vodcast, the videos you put out, all of that is part of media. Media is not just the news media or what used to be called the press. So be your own, very first thing is be your own media company. Tell your story. Make sure you're using the latest tools. Hire a good video person to tell your story in video. Learn how to shoot a podcast, a vodcast. Animate. Next question in the back, Bob Christopher. Okay, first question is, what do I think about crowdfunding? And the second question is, what do I think about growth hacking? to power that. First, crowdfunding was made possible by a change in the SEC rules a few years ago for what I believe was called Reg D. They also have a Reg A. This allowed for the small person to make investments in startups and to fund a startup. There's all kinds of organizations out there like Benefunder and others that will do this for you. Crowdfunding was also Kickstarter and what's the other one that's kind of like Kickstarter? Indiegogo. And the number of times people have given money to those things and never seen a product come back is getting legendary. Crowdfunding like our crowd out of Israel that John Medved started is a very good idea. In that the way it was structured was extremely VC friendly. It would mean follow-on investment could happen. It meant that our crowd was the representative of all the investors that put money into our crowd, as opposed to having a cap table that looks like something like the New York Times, New York Yellow Pages. So crowdfunding to me is highly risky because if you don't hit your numbers, you're a dud, and then you're pretty much dead. However, if you're doing crowdfunding, you better have the money lined up for what your goal is so that you can then do your stretch goal and get to the next level. So if you're going to raise $1 million through crowdfunding, you have your million already sourced, you put it on, you use the heat that it generates to get another million on top of it as your stretch goal. Growth hacking. Growth hacking is very important as long as you do it from an honest perspective and you're not doing pay-per-click, you're not doing clickbait and all kinds of things to drive traffic. I think one of the big misnomers of growth hacking is people rely on numbers. How many of this, how many of that, when in reality, it's not how many, it's who. Do you have the right audience? Market segmentation is significantly important. It's not having 100,000 followers on OnlyFans, it's having 10,000 who are actually going to send you $10. So, you know, if you're going to be doing things that are crowdfunding based, or if you're going to be doing growth hacking, make sure that you're attracting the real people who can actually use your product, buy your product, contribute to your campaign, et cetera. It's like politics. Politics spends $1 million on a TV commercial campaign. You know why they spend $1 million? Because they're only going to pay the TV station $250,000. So that's why rates are so high in the fourth quarter. Next question. When is the time to engage a firm like mine? When you have the money to pay for it.
Hey, you know what? I will.
I'm serious.
When is the best time to engage Andy?
No, right. And I'll be honest, it doesn't matter what stage. A firm like mine can help you at any. We've helped companies at the very start, angel round. We help guys who didn't even have a name. 3 guys on a storefront in Solana Beach who would surf by day, code by night. And we got them acquired by Symantec, and was the best $1.50 I ever spent on my stock options. I would love to have that. As a matter of fact, the VC who I told to put money in said, the next time you have one like that, I'll put money in myself. Forget what my partner said. He goes, it's the dumbest move I ever made. So the answer is seriously, any point in those times makes sense. But the one thing I'll tell you, no matter whether you hire us or you hire somebody else, is if you hire the right firm, they don't make mistakes and they don't cost you time. A lot of times we've inherited clients. I can remember High Def Conferencing hired us. The founder was talking to me for months and his marketing person had some other firm she liked. They got the business. 3 months later, I got a phone call. Can you come in and talk with us? We need your help. I said, what about Ashley? He goes, who? I said, Ashley, your VP of marketing. He goes, who? She's gone. That's why I said, oh, he goes, I need your help. I say, well, she cost you 6 months, not 3, because the 3 months it would have taken to get you there, she just burned. It's now going to take me 3 months to fix it and get it right, because she did do a job at burning. All the work he had done before he got funded went up in smoke in 3 months. So it's about the right timing. I'm more than happy to help guide you in that area, give you some advice or work with you. Next question.
No, if I may. Andy will be here for a little while. If you guys have any additional questions and answers, questions for him, he's going to be here. He's a huge ecosystem representative. Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it. Andy, one more time. Appreciate it.